It has been over a decade since the last original Donkey Kong Country, and even longer since DK got a proper 3D platformer. Donkey Kong Bananza fixes that by acting as the spiritual successor to Super Mario Odyssey, but with a lot more brute force. You play as DK, diving deep toward a planetary core alongside Pauline to stop a corporate mining outfit called Voidco from stealing Banandium gems. The gameplay hook here is entirely built around destructible environments and 5 distinct animal transformations. DK can smash through terrain, rip chunks out of walls to throw at enemies, or stack loose dirt to forge new paths. You're constantly swapping between forms like an ostrich that lets you glide and drop egg bombs, or a zebra that maxes out your running speed. It's an absolute sandbox of destruction, and visually it's easily one of the prettiest first-party games on the system. The camera can occasionally get caught on the geometry during tight underground segments, and the frame rate can take a slight dip when you smash a massive structure into 1,000 pieces, but the sheer mechanical freedom makes it an absolute killer app for the hardware. The entire gameplay of Shadows hinges on a brilliant mechanical contrast. You're not only choosing a different skin for a mission, you're fundamentally swapping genres depending on whether you spawn in as Naue or Yasuke. When you play as Naue, the game shifts into a meticulous sandbox stealth simulator. Her mechanics are entirely built around physical interactivity with the environment. You are hiding in designated hay bales. You're also actively dropping prone to crawl through muddy trenches, using a grappling hook to swing into rafters, and physically extinguishing lanterns to create pockets of actual mechanical darkness that blinds enemy AI guards. The moment you switch to Yasuke, that subtle finesse is completely thrown out the window. Yasuke's combat is a heavy, visceral system governed by posture and armor durability he cannot hide. Instead, his gameplay is about crushing an enemy's guard with massive clubs and katanas, executing timed deflections, and using his physical bulk to literal smash through locked wooden doors and structural barricades during a fight. The brilliance of the gameplay is that the missions don't force your hand. The sandbox simply reacts to whether you choose surgical precision or absolute loud battlefield dominance.
You're never gonna guess what happened. Dex put a hit on me. I took a bullet.
If you told me 5 years ago that we'd be playing Cyberpunk 2077 on a Nintendo handheld and that it wouldn't look like a blurry compressed smear, I'd have assumed you were coping hard. But here we are! The Ultimate Edition on the Switch 2 is one of those literal seeing is believing moments. We're talking about Night City complete with the Phantom Liberty expansion, running natively on a mobile chip. Now let's talk about how they pulled this off, because it's a masterclass in modern optimization. It uses NVIDIA's DLSS to deliver a sharp perceived 1080p image when docked. Is it a high-end PC with ray tracing turned to max? No, but the image is surprisingly clean, totally outclassing last-gen hardware, and giving the Steam Deck a serious run for its money in terms of texture clarity. Walking through the neon-drenched streets of Kabuki or exploring the Badlands feels incredibly solid. Where the hardware starts to break a sweat predictably is when the action spikes. Driving at breakneck speeds through the dense center of Night City can cause the frame rate to hitch, and intense combat encounters with dozens of hacks and explosions going off at once will test the system's limits. But as a technical showcase for what this new console can handle, it's massive, and for the collectors out there, having this entire massive RPG behemoth living right there on a physical cartridge without requiring a 50 gigabyte day one download just to start the game, that's the real victory.
A brand new entry.
Nintendo had a massive problem with the Switch 2 launch. How do you follow up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? A game that literally half the planet owns? The answer was Mario Kart World. And instead of only adding more tracks, they blew the entire structural format wide open. The headline feature here is the free roam mode. For the first time, you're not only locked into a linear 3-lap circuit, you can literally drop onto massive open world maps, driving off-road, hunting down collectibles, and tackling specific missions. It completely changes the vibe from a pure racer to something closer to an open world adventure game on wheels. When you do jump into traditional racing, the scale has doubled. online lobbies now support a chaotic 24 players. Visually, it borrows heavily from the vibrant, expressive art style of Super Mario Bros. Wonder and the animated movie. It runs beautifully though. Nintendo did catch some fair criticism for the steep $80 price tag at launch and the lack of local split screen for that massive new free roam mode. But when you're drifting through these interconnected routes with a live jazz fusion soundtrack blasting through your speakers, it's hard to deny that Nintendo reinvented their most reliable wheel.
And Pokemon.
Pokemon Legends ZA rewrites the franchise's rulebook by ditching traditional turn-based menus for a fully real-time combat system. When a battle triggers inside the holographic boundaries of the city's nighttime battle zones, you're actively moving both your trainer and your active Pokemon around the arena. The biggest mechanical shift is that power points are entirely gone. Instead, every move operates on a localized cooldown timer. Powerful moves like Hydro Pump or Solar Beam have heavy cooldowns and require a noticeable execution wind-up time, while quick attacks trigger instantly. Positioning is everything here. You use the ZL button to lock onto your target, but holding it slows your movement down and disables your dodge roll. You have to constantly drop the lock on, sprint out of the way of incoming physical attacks, and lead your Pokemon away from permanent field traps like spikes or stealth rock that enemies drop onto the battlefield. You also have to actively manage a Mega Evolution meter that fills as you land successful attacks. Pulling off a Mega Evolution doesn't just passively boost your stats, it shifts your Pokemon's entire move priority, allowing you to instantly override cooldowns and turn the tide of high-stakes ZA Royale matches. It is a fast, highly tactical action hybrid system that forces you to read animations and exploit type advantages on a purely kinetic level. The Arkham trilogy on last-gen hardware was notoriously rough, but playing Arkham City natively on the upgraded architecture finally unleashes the true rhythm of Rocksteady's free-flow combat. Arkham's combat is essentially a high-stakes rhythm game masked as a brawler, and running at a locked, stable frame rate means your parry windows and combo multipliers are incredibly reliable. You can dive bomb off the top of the Wonder Tower, glide seamlessly across the Industrial District, and crash straight through a glass ceiling into a pack of 20 of Joker's thugs without a single frame of micro-stutter breaking your concentration. Chaining a strike, redirecting over a shield bearer, and firing a quick-fire battering feels incredibly snappy because the console handles the rapid enemy AI tracking instantly. The upgrade also gives the Predator stealth encounters a huge mechanical boost, toggling detective mode to scan through solid walls, dropping smoke pellets to vanish from armed guards, and executing precise inverted takedowns from stone gargoyles happens without the input delay that used to kill high-level challenge runs. It shifts the game away from technical damage control and turns it back into a pure sandbox of architectural traversal and absolute battlefield control.
Before we get to the next game, let me tell you about ENEBA. ENEBA is a marketplace with games, gift cards, and gaming content, but at a better price. For example, you can grab stuff like Nintendo eShop, $50 card key for just $45. But here's the crazier part. There is also an app called SnackZ where you can play mobile games, earn coins, and redeem it for almost any gift card you can think of. Or you can even cash it out to ENEBA. So technically you are paying almost nothing, and they already paid out over $1.2 million in rewards to users. So if you want to check it out, make sure to use the QR codes on the screen, the link in the description, and for SnackZ use code SwitchPlanet for a $10 welcome bonus. Let's get on to the next game.
The absolute brilliance of Tears of the Kingdom's gameplay lies in how it rewards mechanical experimentation, and on the more powerful hardware, that sandbox feels incredibly frictionless. The core mechanic is driven entirely by four main abilities: Ultra Hand, Fuse, Recall, and Ascend. In the original version, building massive multi-part hovercrafts or weaponized deathbots meant bracing yourself for heavy frame drops right as you glued pieces together. Now, the system handles complex physical tracking instantaneously. Fuse changes how you approach combat encounters on the fly instead of hoarding high-tier weapons. The gameplay shifts into active environmental scavenging. You block an incoming boulder with a shield, parry the enemy, and immediately fuse that exact boulder to your sword to shatter the enemy's armor. Meanwhile, navigating the verticality of the world, jumping from a sky island, pulling out your glider, diving straight into a chasm into the pitch black depths, and using Ascend to phase upward through hundreds of feet of solid rock into an enemy fort happens seamlessly. The tactical pacing of combat and puzzle solving is unchained when the hardware can instantly parse your wildest physics-defying creations without breaking a sweat.
No Man's Sky version 6.2.
The core gameplay of No Man's Sky is a massive survival exploration cycle, resource gathering, crafting, starship management, and interstellar navigation. What redefines this experience on the updated hardware is the inclusion of full native multiplayer ecosystem integration. You're exploring a lonely universe with the vague echo of other players. You're also actively landing on volatile planets with a squad, deploying exocraft rovers, and setting up multi-user mining bases in real time. The moment-to-moment gunplay and scanning mechanics feel vastly snappier due to the precise integration of physical gyro aiming, which makes blasting sentinels or harvesting localized minerals with your multi-tool feel incredibly fluid while on the move. Managing your inventory, the classic bottleneck of the entire game, feels significantly faster because the interface is sharp, responsive, and drops any clunky cursor lag. But the biggest mechanical triumph is the absolute removal of generation stutters when you hit the thrusters, punch through a planet's atmospheric layer, and dogfight space pirates right above a trading post. The physics and enemy AI update instantly, making the seamless scale of the universe finally match the frantic speed of the gameplay. Guardians of Azuma represents a massive mechanical evolution for the franchise, completely restructuring how combat and simulation elements intertwine as an Earth dancer. Your farming is no longer limited to a static backyard plot. The core gameplay forces you to use sacred treasures and rhythmic dance mechanics to physically cleanse the blighted terrain of the eastern country. Azuma dynamically expanding your farmable land into distinct seasonal zones across a massive map. The combat introduces entirely new weapon archetypes like the bow and the talisman, shifting the action away from generic hack and slash into a highly technical ranged tactical system. You use the talisman to inflict elemental status effects on corrupted monsters from a distance, then execute precise dodge rolls to chain physical melee combos. The village building mechanic introduces a deep layer of micromanagement where you construct specific structures to lure displaced citizens back home. These villagers don't just stand around. They actively automate your crop harvesting and resource processing, allowing you to spend less time watering individual tiles and far more time diving into punishing multi-floor dungeon crawls and intense boss encounters that challenge your custom combat build.
Pleasure. I'm the Minister of Land, Suzuki.
I know who you are.
If you played the original Yakuza 3, you know the biggest mechanical complaint was the infamous Blockuza meta, where enemies would block 90% of your attacks, turning every street fight into a tedious test of patience. Kiwami 3 tears that system down. The combat is fluid, explosive, and split into two wildly different styles for Kiryu. You have the Dragon of Dojima Kiwami style, which is the ultimate hyper-responsive evolution of his classic brawling toolkit, packed with counters and environmental heat actions. But the real shakeup is the Ryukyu style. This is a dedicated, fast-paced weapon system inspired by traditional Okinawan martial arts that lets you seamlessly cycle through 8 distinct weapon types on the fly. You can break an enemy's guard with tonfas, sweep their legs with a staff, and immediately transition back into bare-knuckle boxing without the menu lag that used to kill the momentum. Then you swap over to the Dark Ties campaign, and the pacing shifts entirely. Yoshitaka Mine plays like a high-speed technical boxer. His gameplay is all about precise parries, quick-step slips, and building a momentum gauge to trigger his Dark Awakening mode. Once that meter is active, your attack speed skyrockets, letting you unleash relentless high-low punching combinations that shred armor and stagger bosses. It removes the clunky friction of the old era and delivers some of the punchiest, most mechanically diverse brawling the series has seen.
Oh, is your sister in Slytherin too?
She is.
The mechanical gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy lives and dies by its spell-chaining combat, and when you strip away the technical performance bottlenecks, the actual rhythm of being a wizard feels incredibly sharp. Combat is built around a color-coded shield-breaking system. Enemies drop shields that can only be shattered by a corresponding spell type, control, force, or damage, forcing you to constantly manage your 4-slot spell diamonds in real time. Instead of only spamming basic attacks, the gameplay relies on keeping enemies juggled and incapacitated. You launch an enemy into the air with Levioso, pull them closer with Accio, slash them mid-air with Defendo, and slam them into the ground with Descendo. The momentum is fast, demanding quick reflexes to hit your Protego shield parries and execute precise dodge rolls when unblockable attacks flash over your character. Outside of active dueling, the Room of Requirement acts as your mechanical production line. Capturing, feeding, and breeding magical beasts isn't just a side activity, it actively rewards you with raw materials needed to weave traits into your gear and upgrade your defensive stats. Combined with brewing high-tier combat potions that grant temporary invulnerability or lightning-fast cooldowns, the progression ties your exploration directly back into making you a powerhouse on the battlefield. The original Wii U version of Xenoblade Chronicles X had some of the deepest, most complex combat mechanics Monolith Soft ever designed, but it was hopelessly shackled to a clunky dual-screen gamepad setup. The definitive edition on the Switch 2 untangles that web, rebuilding the interface from the ground up to focus entirely on fast, unmitigated kinetic flow. The standout mechanical addition is the new quick cooldown gauge mapped directly to the Y button. It fundamentally alters the rhythm of the classic arts palette, letting you instantly bypass a weapon skill's cooldown timer mid-combo at the cost of a depleting meter. Combined with the streamlined battle UI heavily inspired by Xenoblade Chronicles 3, combat feels vastly more tactical. You can now cleanly target and switch between specific alien appendages with a single button press, breaking off monster parts to disable their heavy attacks while picking up dropped collectibles right in the middle of a live skirmish. Once you unlock your massive scale mechs, the gameplay sandbox breaks wide open. The definitive version allows your giant mech to jump and traverse massive vertical cliffs instantly without waiting to unlock the late-game flight module. It cuts the old artificial pacing roadblocks and rewards aggressive moment-to-moment mechanical mastery.
Vault Dwellers, welcome home. Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition.
Bringing Fallout 4 to a Nintendo console for the first time means making some massive tactical adjustments to how you actually play, especially since this port ditches gyro aiming. Without motion controls to bail you out during frantic firefights, the moment-to-moment gunplay shifts away from twitch reflex shooting and leans heavily into the strategic layer of the special perk system and VAT. Because you're wrestling with standard thumbsticks, you find yourself actively tailoring your build around slowing down time, targeting specific limbs to cripple incoming death claws, and maximizing critical hit bank modifiers. The game lets you pick between 3 distinct performance modes at the main menu, 30, 40, and 60 frames per second, and your choice changes the physical feel of the combat. Running at 60 FPS makes close quarters shotguns and melee weapons feel incredibly responsive, while dropping to 30 FPS sharpens the resolution, so you can actually pick off targets at a distance with a sniper rifle. On top of that, the inclusion of over 150 Creation Club packs directly inside the baseline physical data expands the settlement building sandbox right from the jump, giving you instant access to advanced defense turrets and custom crafting benches that rewrite the early game resource.
Maybe they got tired of being soldiers and went looking for gold.
When Rockstar brought Red Dead Redemption to the original Switch, it was a solid, bare-bones 30 frames per second port of a 360-era game, but playing it with the Switch 2 upgrade changes the entire kinetic feel of the frontier. The headline mechanical upgrade here is the jump to a fluid 60 frames per second, which redefines the game's core shooting gameplay. The Deadeye targeting system, where you click the stick to slow down time and paint targets, feels radically different when you drop back out into real-time action. Striking a match, drawing your revolver, and fanning 6 shots into a gang of cattle rustlers happens with instant sharp responsiveness. The classic thumbstick friction is gone, making horseback hunting or quick turning during an ambush feel tight and reliable. Even the physical behavior of the Euphoria physics engine updates smoothly now. When you lasso an outlaw from horseback and drag them behind you, or shoot a weapon directly out of a lawman's hand, the ragdoll reactions and coordinate adjustments happen instantly. It strips away the decade-old technical sluggishness and forces you to appreciate just how punishingly sharp the mechanical gunplay was always meant to be. Porting a massive current-gen behemoth like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to a mobile chip required some smart engineering. But once you pull out Buster's sword, the sheer mechanical depth of the active strategic combat system shines through. The entire gameplay relies on the tactical balance between high-speed physical combos and freezing time to spend your active time battle ATB charges on magic or special abilities. The real game changer on this hardware is the absolute fluidity of the synergy skills and synergy abilities. You can aggressively command Cloud to execute a twin defense guard with Tifa, use the momentum to launch into an aerial strike, and immediately hot swap control over to Barret to exploit an enemy's elemental weakness from across the field. Because the game handles asset streaming and character switching instantly, the chaos of managing 3 separate ATB meters during massive boss fights never feels sluggish. The tactical layer is pushed even further during open-world exploration, jumping onto a chocobo, sprinting across the expansive grasslands, and gliding across canyon chasms happens with a tight response curve. Square Enix cut back on some complex lighting systems to hit their performance goals, but by prioritizing a locked, stable gameplay flow, they ensure that the frantic, strategic rhythm of the combat remains completely intact. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out one of the videos on screen right now. As always, I'm Cyril, big thanks to the community, and I'll see you on the next video.